Hi, in this tutorial we're going to explore Piccolo, an async ORM and query builder for Python. We'll look at a nice feature called Playgrounds, which is a great way to learn how the database queries work. So we're starting off in a virtual environment. We're just going to install Piccolo to get started. So it'll just take a couple of seconds for this to compile. There we go. Okay, so if we use the Piccolo command, you'll see there's a playground run subcommand. So the first time you run it, you'll be asked to install IPython. So IPython's a nice interactive shell. There we go. So let's try again. So what this does is it launches an IPython shell and creates a SQLite database. And we have this schema. So this schema is for fictional bands, and they have managers, concerts, and venues. And when the playground starts, it populates this schema with some data that we can play around with. So playgrounds are a concept that came from the Swift and iOS community. So it's just a nice little sandbox where you can learn syntax. So let's do some simple queries and show you how Piccolo works. So we'll start off with this band table. So let's select all of the bands. So one thing you can do with Piccolo is it has good support for tab completion because of its type annotations. So if I press tab now, you can see there's two options. I can run the query or use run sync. So run returns a coroutine, which is something you can await. So this is great for web apps, but inside the terminal, we'll use run sync for now. So here you go, you'll see that there's two bands, the Pythonistas and the Rust stations. Okay, so let's try a slightly more complex query. What if we just want the names? We could pass in the columns that we want. So again, we can use tab completion. And you can see here is the name column. So now we just have the names. So what if we want the bands, but we also want the names of the managers? So Piccolo has a nice syntax for joins. So let me show you that now. So you can see here it fetched the managers. So it's Guido and Graydon. Okay, so that's the basic of select. Let me show you the where clause, which is something you'll use a lot. So what if we just wanted the Pythonistas? So there's a simple where clause. And we can combine where clause using and or to make some complex queries. So one thing that's quite cool is at any point you can take your query and you can see the underlying SQL. So here's the SQL that's being run. So what happens is you create your query, you can chain on some methods like where clause, and then when you run sync, that's actually when it gets executed. So selects are great when you're building an API and you just want some data to serve up. And it works great as a query builder, but you can also use it in ORM mode. So let me show you that now. So instead of using select, we use objects. And I'm just going to get the first one. So this is an instance of band. And if we look at the attributes, then they have the correct values. And what we can do is we can update these attributes. And we can save them. And if we look at the bands again, you'll see that it's updated the name to be Amazing Band. So let's see what other queries we can run. So we have alter, which is for altering the actual underlying schema. We have count, which is for counting the number of matching rows. Create table will create the table for us. Let's try delete. So we'll do this on manager for now. So let's just check our managers again. So we're going to delete Graydon. Okay, let's check them. So we've deleted Graydon. Okay, so let's see what other queries we can do. So we've done delete. Exists tells us if there's any matching rows. So you can see here we've got a 1, which tells us that it exists. And here we've got a 0 because this one doesn't exist. So we can do an insert. So there's two ways of inserting data. There's the ORM syntax. So you see here it created a new one with an ID of 2. We see here this user called Bob. And you can also do a insert query. So you can batch insert here. And here we've created a new manager called Wilma. So you can use raw to do raw SQL queries. Table exists just tells us the table exists. Obviously we know it exists by now, but this can be useful. And then finally we have update. So let's go to our band table again. So we're going to increase the popularity of this band. So one thing that's quite cool here is we can just increase it by a certain number. So we're not going to use a where clause for now because there's only one row. And now let's check it out. So you can see that the popularity is now 1,100. So that's the basics of the Piccolo Playground. So one thing to bear in mind is every time you restart it, it creates the data from scratch. So it's a nice safe sandbox. You don't need to worry about corrupting data or anything. You can just go crazy. And as I previously mentioned, it's great for learning, but it's also great just to experiment with queries. So I hope that's been useful. Thank you.